to officially announce this group's mission to bring a Major League Soccer club to the fabulous city of St. Louis.
Today is about the great city of St. Louis because guess what? You did it. It is with great honor and an incredible pleasure for me to announce that St. Louis will be the 28th team in Major League Soccer. Congratulations. Takes a run to the byline, right foot ball. In front, Ostrak, he scores! Tomas Ostrak from the penalty spot. Diaz, Sergio Pompeo along the near side, tries to cut in past Parker, takes a bump to the byline, and it floats right back to him. And he slips it between the defenders to Schneider. Good ball along the 6, headed home by Josh Dowling. St. Louis, let's get ready to rock.
6 days ago, we were in downtown LA watching LAFC lift MLS Cup. Tonight, we're in downtown St. Louis at City Park. St. Louis SC getting the 2023 calendar started. Their expansion draft is tonight. I am Andrew Wiebe alongside Caitlin Carr. We have 5 picks to come from sporting director Lutz Pfannenstiel. But Caitlin, we got into St. Louis. We're turning this page. We're looking ahead to 2023. We will see some players change teams and perhaps some trades. But there's more to St. Louis than just the now, just next year. There is a deep soccer connection that we're just starting to explore as we begin this journey.
And what a way, by the way, to end the year. And as we do look ahead, what a place to do it. I mean, and this place you mentioned, deep roots here. You go back into the history, one of the most important cities in North American soccer. And it goes all the way back. We think about the World Cup going against England. Well, the 1950 team that beat England, 5 of them came from a little neighborhood here called The Hill. You go through the history of the iconic names that have come from here and been sort of, standard bearers for this league. And, Taylor Twellman or Steve Ralston, who I played for, or Brad Davis. There's so many talented players, and we expect to see more coming out of here. But, yeah, it's an exciting year looking ahead, and what a place to do it. The stadium is amazing.
What a beautiful stadium this is. 40 feet or more below street level. You walk out, you look down, wow. That gorgeous green field spread out next February. You know it'll be happening there. They'll be playing games. Here's the road to expansion for St. Louis City. August 2019, MLS awards an expansion team to the city of St. Louis, and the ownership group assembled. Lutz Pfannenstiel, who will join us in just a second, hired as the sporting director in August of 2020. Bradley Carnell, just earlier this year, hired as the first head coach, a full season, a full year to prepare, and of course their first season in MLS beginning next February. Caitlin, before we get to the selections tonight, it's important to bring some context here. And this is a mechanism that has been pretty valuable for expansion teams in the past. Not every team has gotten it right, but those who have really gotten a big benefit.
Yeah, in order to find success in MLS, you have to use every mechanism available to you, and this is an important one. You look at the top of that list, Latif Blessing just lifted MLS Cup, has 2 supporter shields to his name. St. Louis City would be hoping somebody who's picked today might be hosting a trophy over their heads at some point, but even go down the list. Joe Willis acquired from Nashville SC, and then even other teams. They'll have this eye on today, trying to find some value. Brandon Vasquez came through the expansion draft, ended up in Cincinnati, and Kamal Miller as well ended up in Montreal. I mean, those players played big impacts this season and in the MLS Cup playoffs.
If you look at the list this year, I'm not sure there are as many assets as we've seen in years past. Charlotte FC generating $875K in GAM last year through true trades, but there are players who can impact the first team, who can be good depth pieces, and the man making the selections today, it's Lutz Pfannenstiel. He is the sporting director of St. Louis City SC. Lutz, welcome. 5 picks to come. I know that's what people want, but before we get them there, let's get a little bit of background here. You've got 12 players on the roster so far. Tell me what you've built so far in St. Louis.
Yeah, I think we got the unique opportunity from the ownership that they gave us an option to really bring foreigners from the European market in July, already 6 months prior to the season, which helps us a lot to just literally build the backbone, build the spine. Also get the players used to St. Louis. Where do kids go to school? Where do you live? Basically making St. Louis their home. So when they come back in January, it's nothing new. They already know where they're going. I think that's a big advantage for us. Also having an opportunity, signing Bradley 1 year to go. I think it's important for the head coach to be here, not just to come in on day one and start coaching, but be part of everything we built. So that year gave us a very, very good time. And yeah, I mean, of course, expansion draft time is now. I mean, that's the important part as well, to get the right domestic players who fit to our style. And that's why we're here today.
You have a unique backstory. I mean, played in 6 different continents, I believe. And when you look at kind of that experience and perspective and building this roster, deciding what a St. Louis SC player looks like, how does that experience maybe inform the type of player you might look at and how that fits into your game model here?
Yeah, I think I was fortunate enough to play all over the world, to get that experience, to have probably the biggest phone book in football history, you know, just by simply meeting people all over the place. But I learned my trade in Hoffenheim, where we had a very similar situation, a club which came from nowhere, which slowly, gradually was built into even a Champions League team, and where transfers was the bread and butter, which was very important, but also building an academy was a big key to that. So that's a very similar situation what we find here. And yeah, we definitely, it helps us how to build a squad and how to use the one or the other connections overseas as well.
There have been some quotes from you that have surprised some MLS observers, namely about DPs, and you've sort of said, look, we don't even see it that way. Do we need DPs? I'm not sure that we do. You have 2. Help people understand who those 2 are and what they'll bring to your team.
Yeah, I said that. You know, it was a little bit pulled out, I think, from the way. I mean, every team has the choice to have DPs. What I mean about that is bringing a DP which is on the end of his career, which is 35, 36, and basically have done everything and comes over here not really taking things that serious anymore. I believe if you bring a younger player, a DP, which is still on the way up, which still can develop and still can actually make the next move, then I'm absolutely fine with that. But you know, it's a category of a player. I believe having just the weight on 2 or 3 guys will not really focus on the team. We want to build a team here. We want to build a club culture. So everybody on the field, the 11 on the field, the coaching staff, the substitute players, and even the guys on the stands, they're just as important as everybody else. That's why that DP thinking, the PR player thinking, is just not my cup of tea.
Tell me about Klaus, though. I need to know about the potential goal scorer we're going to see.
Yeah, Klaus, I took him actually to Hoffenheim when he was 18. Big, strong centre forward from the south of Brazil. You know, also German background from his family, like he's 6'3", and he came to Hoffenheim as a young boy. We loaned him out to Finland, to Austria. He scored his 30 goals in Finland. He scored over 20 goals in Austria in the European League as well. And when he came on the market now, when he was on loan in Belgium, it was a no-brainer for me, because he knows exactly the pressing style we want. We will play very similar to the Red Bull kind of philosophy, but also to Hoffenheim, where pressing, counter-pressing, transition game is extremely important. Klaus did that now since he's 18, so he knows exactly what we're asking for.
You talked about building the spine of this team, and that starts in the back. Roman Bürki, a big-time player, has played at the highest level in the Bundesliga and Dortmund. What do you expect from him in this first season, and how much pressure is on him to help a team that is going to be aggressive and is going to be pushing?
Yeah, I mean, we signed him as a leader. You know, coming from Borussia Dortmund, being a Swiss international, having played many years in the Bundesliga, playing Champions League. Of course, that's a guy we were looking for to lead from the back, but also give experience to the younger players and helping them. To get Roman was extremely important for us. I mean, he's a player which wanted to come to the States. He wanted that challenge. He had plenty of offers to stay in Europe, sign for big clubs, but he really was keen to be part of that, and that really caught our eye. When it comes to his goalkeeping, I think we don't need to talk about it. He's outstanding, and I believe it's extremely important to have a top goalkeeper between the pipes. That's something that is a little bit underestimated here in the States. If you look in the European clubs, that's where it starts. Have a good goalkeeper to build out from the back, but also being, I think, that kind of man in the back who leads the team, who controls the pace, and is like I would say the material to be a big leader.
Andre Blake is a guy that I think about when you said in the Philadelphia Union. Of course, we saw them in MLS Cup. We have 5 picks to come. Before we get there, what do you expect to get at the expansion draft? What do you think you can do tonight to help your team move forward?
Yeah, for us it was important that we getting players which fit in our philosophy. So there was plenty of good players in that draft, but players which not really fit to us. So when it comes to the age, when it comes to the position, when it comes to the playing style, all that was the 3 components we needed to fill. And I think we found the players we wanted. We got at least one player. We didn't expect that he will be on that list. So overall, it was definitely not easy. I told you yesterday the quote about the candy shop.
Yeah.
You don't walk in and just pick what you like and you're happy. It was even harder than I thought, because it was a very, very tight list, and we needed to put lots of work in it. Like Bradley Carnell's head, John Hackworth's head, and my head is still on fire, because we really were 3 days now on a non-stop mission to do the best for the club.
It's over now. We're going to get to the picks. That's what you're looking for. Here are the rules for this expansion draft for St. Louis City SC. 5 selections for St. Louis SC, as is customary in these drafts. Clubs were allowed to pick 12 players. Generation Adidas and homegrown players 25 years old or younger were automatically protected. DC United, LAFC, Austin, NYCFC, and Atlanta United were not among those teams that had to protect players. They cannot have a player picked tonight, given that Charlotte picked their players last year. So if you were exempt last year, nothing this year, so that rules out 5 clubs there. And then each club cannot have more than 1 player selected. So if you have a player from your club selected, that club will receive gambling compensation, and they will be off the list. They can have no more players selected. All right, let's get to the first pick in the 2023 MLS expansion draft for St. Louis City SC. Lutz, the honor is yours. Who is the number 1 pick?
Yeah, our first pick, Nico Gioacchini from Orlando City.
Nico Gioacchini from Orlando City, 22 years old, 8 caps with the U.S. men's national team, 3 goals. Got to look for Greg Berhalter's team, Kalen. And look, he was in demand this summer. Went to Orlando City, they signed him, and now to St. Louis SC. Seems like a very good selection.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. I mean, 2 goals, I remember, against Panama. Good movement in the box, very mobile. And as you mentioned, he just came back to Orlando City. Only played about 6 matches, I believe, so still adjusting. Maybe didn't fit their game model as much, but if you think of the way that St. Louis City wants to get out in the open and open space, his mobility, his movement, his understanding of space, I think, can be really dangerous. And you go back and you say, all right, look at the upside here. 22 years old, has already scored goals at the international level. I think this is a really, really smart pickup here.
Yeah, played a full season in Ligue 1, had plenty of experience in Ligue 2 as well. Lutz, what did you see in this one? Were you surprised that Gioacchini was available?
Yes, for sure. You mentioned it, no-brainer. That was exactly the same feeling we had. I mean, he's 22. He gained European experience. He played for the full national team. He has unbelievable speed. He has a great attitude. He likes to work hard. And he's the guy for the deep runs. So exactly the way we want to play. He really fits in there. And, well, I'm really, really excited that we can bring him over. Don't forget, he's born in Kansas, so he's not too far from here. So somehow, actually, we bring him home.
Kansas City. Here we go. Born and bred. Back home for me, huh? Yeah, Nikos Gioacchini, the first pick of the 2023 expansion draft. Let's get number 2. Who do you have with the number 2 pick here, Lutz?
Indy Vasilev from Inter Miami.
What did you see in Indy? Of course, 2 years with Inter Miami. Played, I think, 45 games for them, sort of a spot starter, but a guy that John Hackworth knows well, was in that U17 team at the World Cup. How do you see him fitting into this team?
Yeah, extremely talented, technically great player. You know, his big upside is he can play so many different positions. He also have already English Premier League experience playing for Aston Villa, and you don't find many 21-year-old overseas player Americans who actually have that experience. Very young, very promising. So for us also, John knows him extremely well from the youth national team. We thought that he fits well into our system, and we are also extremely happy that he will play part here.
I've heard you talk before about finding players that maybe aren't the finished product yet, and you've got a 22-year-old and a 21-year-old now. When you look as building players up, did this weigh into the decision here as well?
Of course. I mean, we all said that all the way that I don't believe in bringing lots of older players. We do have experienced players as the spine. I think we need to have players who can play really, really high intensity, who can run, who can work hard. That is our style, and I think this is what we're getting with younger players which we still can mold, that we really can teach and train exactly how we want them to play. It's all about, and again I come back to that, the way we play is all about the team. It's 11 guys who need to do exactly together. If one guy does it different, it won't work out anymore. That's why we believe in the youngsters, which we really can get into our style.
Is there work to be done with Aston Villa to get this deal done over the line, or is this an MLS rights deal and look forward?
We will still have to do a bit of work with Aston Villa, but I believe we're there also in a pretty good way now.
Okay. All right. 2 picks down. 3 more to go in this expansion draft. Let's keep it rolling here, Lutz. Who is the number 3 pick for St. Louis City?
Well, number 3, Jonathan Bell, New England Revolution.
Jonathan Bell, 25 years old, coming over from the Revs, 2 years there, 19 starts, Kalen. When we did our preview on Extra Time, we laid out a number of domestic young center backs, and we said, one of these guys is going, and John Bell was at the top of our list.
Yeah, it's not a huge surprise either. I think New England will be
A little frustrated.
Yeah, upset to lose him because he was able to step in and never looked out of place into the starting lineup. And we'll have to see how St. Louis City's back line evolves. But this is a guy that you can expect to step in and at least be a part of that rotation to contribute in games. And he's got the athletic profile. He's got some good experience. He's the right age. So I think when you also look at the budget hit as well, it is not a big cap number as well. So that's always a part of things when you look at building a roster. You have to take into that account as well.
Lutz, what separated him from the group of center backs you had to choose from?
You're right, there was a good group of centre backs, but looking at him, 25 years old, left foot, it's always really a privilege to get a left-footed player. His athleticism is unbelievable. He's strong, physically very good. He's unbelievably quick. I see a really bright future here.
All right, of course, Joachim Nielsen, one of those guys that are building around in the back. We'll see where John Bell fits in. 3 picks down, 2 more to go in this expansion draft. Number 4, your turn, Lutz. Tell us who it is.
Number 4, well, another lefty, John Nelson, FC Cincinnati.
What did you see in John Nelson? I thought this year, Lutz, he took a big step forward, sort of found his way. I think 14 starts for this team that pushed into the playoffs. What do you like about his profile?
I just love his mentality. He always gives 100%. He works hard. He likes to defend forward. He's not a passive player who likes to sit. He goes up and down the line like a guy who just, I just love watching him. So that's, again, he plays a big part when it comes to the attitude, to mentality, hard working. I think he somehow reflects that Midwestern mentality which we want to stand for. Be modest, be hardworking, get our head down and work. That is what the people want to see out there. John Nelson is the guy.
Midwest? I think this guy's from the Midwest. That doesn't sound familiar with me.
Right? That's me.
No, I think this is a smart one. I think, especially when you look at the position, and I've been doing a couple of these expansion drafts now, and just across MLS, finding a left back is not an easy position necessarily. And I think when you look at the value, the experience, 14 starts this season, and then the mentality. We'll give the Midwest some love here as well too. So I think this one works a lot as well, and. He's got experience, and again, another player that's young age, I think just 24. Yeah,
been at a couple different clubs. He will know how to adapt as well. Right in here, maybe an opportunity for John Nelson to get more playing time, maybe be more steady starter than the 14 he got for Pat Noonan in Cincinnati last year. Final pick, Gioacchini, Vasilev, Bell, Nelson. Who will be number 5, Lutz?
Number 5, Jake LaCava from New York Red Bulls.
Jake LaCava from the New York Red Bulls. You may not be familiar with him if you're watching at home. One of those guys we got to help catch him up on, Kalen. But a Red Bulls 2 signing in 2020, in the summer of 2020. Went on loan after 2 years at Red Bulls 2. Was signed to the first team earlier this year, but then went to Tampa Bay and did pretty well for himself.
Yeah, well, that's a part of the expansion draft, and I think sometimes it can be a little bit misunderstood where you're expecting maybe the biggest names to come off the board. And that's not always the case because you have to look into so many different factors, and I think this one more is about potential because this is a prospect, a guy that came through the Red Bulls Academy, or Red Bulls 2 system, and then went on loan this year and scored 12 goals. But a ton of pace, able to stretch the field, was able to play for a good team in the USL Championship, and I think a guy that at 21 years old, again, is an upside pick.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Lutz, we will let you go for a second as we wrap up some of these picks. We'll talk with you in just a little bit. Again, stick with us. I hear there may be some trades coming as well, but 5 picks down here in this expansion draft. Nicholas Gioacchini, forward from Orlando City, signed in the summer. India Vasilev has been on loan from Aston Villa in Miami for the past 2 years. But got a good run there. 5 goals, 2 assists in 45 games. John Bell, 19 starts for the Revs over the last 2 years. He's 25. And then a 24-year-old left back in John Nelson was with Dallas, then went to Cincinnati, 54 games, 32 starts for him. And then Jake LaCava finishes up at the number 5 pick in this expansion draft. What do you think, Kalen, of these selections of this group so far?
I actually really like this group, especially when you look at Gioacchini, which I think has a lot of potential as far as a player that has experience. I think you go across the list and you say the age of all these players, the value, the price tag that are attached to a lot of them, feels like there's a lot of potential. And I think when you fit that into the game model here, that's going to be athletic, that's going to be energetic, the history of the connections to Red Bull, Carnell, and the way he wants to play with his team, you can see how a lot of these guys can fit into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at the ages in particular, and we talked on Extra Time to Lutz. He was very, very direct. We're not looking for players of a certain profile, and I think you have to respect the fact that even in this situation with guys like Bedoya or Dax sitting out there for him, he stuck to those principles, and he said, these are the sort of players we're looking for. We're not going to deviate from those principles. And speaking of principles, those have been awfully important for the Red Bulls in the past. They'll be important for St. Louis City as well. Bradley Carnell joins us, the head coach of St. Louis City. It's been a year, Bradley. You've had the game on the field, MLS Next Pro, but are you ready for this? You look at this field and think, God, can we get out there sooner?
Yeah, really amazing, and really amazing to be afforded the opportunity to get out and get to work early. Lutz spoke about the spine. I think about building the foundation, whether it's been with the academy, whether it's been with the Next Pro, and obviously playing in a certain style, in a certain way. Speak about the principles, and I believe that if we get those principles right, we can be really competitive on any given day, and that's why, getting this roster in nice and early to get the Next Pro experiences under the belt, to get the first taste of success with the Western Conference, winning that title as well. So really exciting times, and really happy to finally get the show on the road.
We've been a part of some expansion drafts in the past where the very first players chosen on the team are coming from this list. This is a completely different circumstance where you've had a number of players in this group, especially the Europeans who have come over, and the head coach a year early. How have you been able to kind of use that advantage to build sort of progressively as you look ahead towards February?
Yeah, first and foremost, there's so many people running behind the scenes here, wearing so many different hats within this organization. And everyone's just pulling in the same direction, trying to strive to the end game, to the end product, to get this going in 2023. And looking back now, there's certain obviously, objectives we set in mind, and little building stones, little baby steps going forward, and seeing it all come together is, all credit to the people involved here. This is not just a one-man show, and it's just not just rolling up here and doing nothing for 9, 10, 11, 12 months and hoping to think that this thing seamlessly gets on the road. So, there's been a ton of investment. There's been some ups, some downs, some highs and lows, but we feel we've grown. And that's the biggest thing, and getting the players in here integrated, acclimated, families settled down. So that's been one of the biggest blessings, I would say, during this whole year.
You got to see some of these signings that'll play on the MLS side in Next Pro at the end of the year. What did you see from that Next Pro team overall and from those guys in Next Pro? I mean, you got to the final, just a couple breaks, and maybe you're lifting a cup, and in the end it was Crew of 2 that got that one done.
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, we spoke about the highs and lows, but just to see, for me, the wins of the season and wins of the year was getting some guys acclimated, seeing a young Next Pro group grow even before the European guys got in. We spoke off air a little bit earlier. We were at a same or similar level in the stage of the league when the European guys, the 8 foreigners, joined us. So, we've those guys stepped up to the level. They've seen what success can look like. They've seen what another level look like as well. So their personal development, their personal growth has also come on in leaps and bounds. And also some players have been and will be rewarded with MLS contracts. So,
I could see, the advantage, of course, which we've outlined well here, of having the guys in early and getting them within your system and understanding the culture and the way you want to play. But is there also a challenge that comes with that, as far as there's going to be another level when it comes to playing against, MLS sides and going at it on opening day?
Yeah, well, the problem is you get used to a Next Pro level, and when guys are coming from Europe, and you start settling in another level. It's like playing an Open Cup game against a 4th division team or something. So at some stage, after a number of games, the biggest thing is always to challenge ourselves every single day. Stay true to our standards, stay true to our principles, and strive for success in that way. So we have a good internal competition with our group, and we've almost had to hit a hard reset because we know what's coming around the door just next week.
All right, What do you look forward for the most? Like, is it the start of preseason? Is the first game here in this stadium? What's the thing on your list right now that you're just sort of jonesing
I'm
for?
looking forward to the very first meeting I host with a full roster of players. You know, it's partially been a message here, a group message there. So getting all of our roster together on that first day in this beautiful facility, in the video room, and setting the tone, setting the standards, and building a common growth and a common mindset and to achieve our objectives of 2023.
Step by step. The training ground, by the way, is right in front of us. You can look through the windows. Boom, there's the training ground. Here's the stadium in downtown. Bradley Carnell will be the head coach of St. Louis City. Thank you so much, Bradley.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we've got a little bit of news for you. An alert, so to speak. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. We have some trades to announce from this MLS expansion draft. 2 trades. Jake LaCava, only briefly a member of St. Louis City SC. He has been traded to Inter Miami for $150,000 in 2023 GAM and up to $100,000 more of additional GAM depending on performance metrics, whether he can hit those in Miami. And then a big one here, a blockbuster in MLS terms. Tim Parker, who just 2 years ago went to Houston Dynamo from the Red Bulls for up to $1 million in allocation money, moving to St. Louis SC for $500,000 in general allocation money. That will be split over 2 years, 2023 and 24. Lutz Pfannenstiel is back with us. Lutz, there you go. You got some business done. You hold on to 4 players, you move one on, and you get Tim Parker on the back end as well. Tell us first about the Parker trade. Why Tim Parker, and what do you think about how he fits into this team?
Red Bull player, knows exactly what we want from him. National player, 29 years old, have the experience. I mean, he's a role model on and off the field. That's exactly the player we wanted, you know. And yeah, I mean, it's a deal for us. I think where we can be really happy. A portion of the player's budget charge will be taken care of Houston in 23 and 24. So yeah, I think for us it's a big player, and I really can't to welcome him here in St. Louis.
Have you had a chance to speak to Tim?
Of course I did.
What's he saying to you? This seems like a good opportunity for him.
I believe so. I think you know, the playing style we have, I think that is where he became the player he is. That's where he grew up. I think for him it's a little bit coming home when it comes to playing football. I think he's back in that where he was the most successful player, where he was at his best. And I think for us it's an absolute win-win situation. He will lead the young players. He's a player the young players will look up to. And we needed a top domestic player who knows the league inside out, who knows the mechanism. That's exactly the guy we have now.
Jake LaCava. He's a guy that obviously Inter Miami called you up and said, hey, how about you do us a solid? Take this player, we'll move him on. What do you now do with this allocation money you have? What sort of kitty do you have, and how does it affect how you can build going forward?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it before. The last year it was a different list. There was more money to be collected. It was for us important that we, you know, we get some deal done that helps us again with the money for Parker as well, which we can spend nicely in our budget. It was a good deal for us. So we got actually 5 players. We picked 6. In the end of the day, 5 stay here, 1 moves on. That's what we wanted.
Well, let's wrap it up from your perspective on today. What does today mean for St. Louis City? How happy are you with the business you've done?
You know, I always look into planning a squad like a bit like a Christmas tree, not long to go. Just put the little balls on and we have the spine already. I think today was a nice way of putting very, very important parts onto this Christmas tree. We have a super draft coming up. Don't forget, we still have international roster slots, which we also bought. So we have lots of flexibilities in the weeks to come. And we can't wait to be out there and join the MLS.
All right, Lutz, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, a long winter to come for St. Louis City SC as well as the rest of the league. Here are the 5 selections tonight in the 2022 St. Louis expansion draft. Nicholas Giacchini, India Vassilev, John Bell, John Nelson, Jake LaCava, subsequently traded to Inter Miami. Those first 4, though, Kalen, 22, 21, 25, 24. All guys that can start, can also be really good depth pieces, a successful night overall. And here's your key offseason dates. Going ahead, Monday, November 14th, it's the club deadline to submit bona fide offers, pick up options. Free agency will open in about 5 days' time, next Wednesday. On Thursday, reentry process stage 1 gets going. The Tuesday after, you got stage 2, MLS Super Draft, right back here in St. Louis, presented by Adidas. Wednesday, December 21st, it's going to be a busy time, Kalen. the MLS offseason, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, no, and I think this Parker move at the end is going to be big news as well. And if you look at expansion teams in the past, it's so important to have MLS experience, especially in that position. You go back, you look at Walker Zimmerman and how important he was. You look at Michael Parkhurst at Atlanta United. So I just think finding that experience, and for Parker, a change of pace, it makes sense for Houston. They need some flexibility on the cap. And then, for Parker, he gets a fresh start in a place where he can reunite with Bradley Carnell, a system that will suit him. He can be on the front foot again and hopefully rediscover the form that we've come to know him for.
All right, 5 players going into the roster for St. Louis City. That is now 12 overall, plus 5. That's 17 as they build toward opening day in February. Thank you so much for joining us for the expansion draft. We'll be right back here for the Super Draft in December, so join us for that as well. Of course, all the coverage of all the offseason movement at MLSsoccer.com and on the MLS app. Enjoy your Friday night, everyone. From St. Louis, we say goodbye.